Actually, I'm going to take off.
You got your swishy jacket with all your tassels on it.
Yeah. I'm going to get like film. I'm going to get like patches that have like film titles.
That's good.
A holy mountain stitching.
Oh man, El Topo, man.
Oh wow, yeah.
Insane.
I haven't seen it, so
insane.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy.
Yeah.
I know.
That comes out in 70, I think. Really crazy. Just in these couple of years, everyone's up to some weird stuff.
This is the time.
Everyone's feeling really emboldened.
They are. No one cares anymore. They're gonna just really start having fun.
Yeah. And we are talking about one of the most out there films today from director Toshio Matsumoto. It's Funeral Parade of Roses. And you might want to go to the film experts for your opinions on Japanese new wave films, but some like it unauthorized. And I am Jay Brooks Young.
And I'm Zach Domes.
Yeah, I put this on our film list. It's not a Sight and Sound film. I think it was just on a, best queer films of all time list or something.
Well, it looks like it does get 11 votes, so it almost makes the list, the Sight and Sound list for 2022, just by a couple of votes off.
Yeah, I don't think it made such a big impression when it came out. The little I've seen is that critics were mixed on it. It did get some kind of small release in the United States the next year, but, people probably didn't know what to make of it. It's still very early for certainly trans representation in films, but any kind of queer representation. I mean, we're seeing all this stuff very new to film, at least in recent years, we say stuff like this is very new, this is very groundbreaking, and you had interesting films approaching queer topics back in the 30s and stuff like that, and I think it was the Hays Code in the US that kind of changed film everywhere, I think, and people became conscious of whether their films could be sold in the US. I don't know, that's the impression that you get, and there are probably cultural factors in countries outside the US, but yeah, this was a new thing. I mean, I don't know. What did you think, Zach? I mean, just popping this film on.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you're saying is true. You have to watch this and just wonder how people reacted to it when they saw it at the time. It just had to have blown their minds. And it's blowing their minds in the way that some of the characters are, even acting and talking about the things they're doing. I mean, this is showcasing people who are doing marijuana for really the first time, able to talk about it somewhat openly. And it's kind of blowing their minds. Just the fact that they can sort of dance and smoke and dress certain ways and act certain ways. You can tell that, the way people are in what they're doing is totally novel and totally new. That's what makes, watching any movie like this exciting, like watching Monterey Pop or Woodstock and any film, Easy Rider, like we talked about last week. What's so exciting about these movies is you're watching people do things and act a certain way that now we've grown accustomed to since then. It's been 50, 60 years since then. So we're so used to it now, but this really was the turning point for this culture and these things. And so it's, for that fact alone, it's exciting to think about. But what's going on here? This is a nonlinear kind of scrapped together, not in a bad way, but it's edited very loosely. It's edited very fast and in a sketched out way. Obviously Godard has a huge influence on this. This is
all over. This is
Godard. Yeah. It's Godard doing an acid trip and flying out to the edge of the universe here. In some ways noticeable, and in other ways, just the whole thing has Godard DNA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is Matsumoto's first feature film, but he had been working in short documentary and sort of experimental film since the mid 50s. And he's around Godard's age, so he's starting out kind of in his 20s working in films, making films. So I mean, he's been experimenting all along as well, but it's obvious that he really responded when he did get to see Godard's stuff and wanted to use those techniques. And it seems that he got the chance to make this film because he got financing from the Art Theater Guild, which was this sub house of Toho Studios that started in the early 60s just importing foreign art films to Japan. But then in the late 60s, they start actually producing Japanese films under this label, I guess you could call it, this production company. But yeah, kind of similar to the US, it seems that they decided to give some more avant-garde filmmakers a chance to just make something and put it out. So he really, took kind of everything I think he was thinking about film and put it all into one thing. So you get that Godard, and you kind of, I don't know, you can almost see every single kind of Godardian element or technique pop up in this film, it feels like. And that touches that documentary stuff too. This feels like it's incorporating cinema verite, and I think almost any kind of experimental film that you're looking at around this time is incorporating that. Whether it's an Easy Rider and, them just shooting themselves wandering around the streets of Mardi Gras, around real people, whether it's a symbio-psychotoxoplasm, they're just shooting a film out in Central Park and filming the people that walk up to them while they're making the film. People are really excited about these sort of verite ideas that we're now seeing something that resembles real life in movies. So that, yeah, it seems like Matsumoto is really excited with that, and he's incorporating that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I don't think that we see that as much these days. I'm trying to think of something that may have been done. It's mixed in a different kind of way. There's the non-actors will be included in a film in a less of a verite way. Although I did see a movie called Afterlife.
Is that Koreeda?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, that's right. And he does that in that film very similarly. Just the characters themselves seem to be telling stories of their own lives to give a very, to add to that realism. But yeah, you don't see it as much. You don't see it as much these days. This time, they were really playing with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was especially watching Symbio-Psychotoxoplasm where it clicked with me this looks more like TikTok, YouTube, like reality TV. That's sort of where cinema verite evolved into almost. Mm-hmm. And it's those platforms allow you to sort of see real life near instantaneously. You don't have to film it and then, edit this whole film and, it comes out a year later. It's sort of we're experiencing other people's realities much, much quicker, sort of. And maybe that's a partial explanation. I don't know.
It's an interesting thing. It's a kind of a funny way to look at, there's a pipeline of creativity or types of film, types of movie making where you would have experimental film is done in shorts, and that'll get sent to the major motion pictures in the way that they'll include the experimental, the experimental film that happens in the shorts. They'll include that, but then eventually something gets piped from film to TV, and then now, of course, we have social media where it's these bite-sized 5-second, 10-second clips of things that may have been done a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reality TV. I mean, you see it, like an old movie often, to me, reminds me of just like what a soap opera or show looks like today. Just like an ordinary drama on television can feel like an old movie.
Mm-hmm. Just those sort of old tried and true techniques.
Yeah.
They became sort of like mass producible in a way.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Things that can become mass produced end up going to those routes. Yeah. So obviously real life would be mostly shown in social media, since social media is all just people filming their own lives.
Yeah. But yeah, they had developed, these sort of portable recording setups, portable microphones and things. Cameras become much easier to carry. So it's over kind of the course of the 60s that this stuff gets adopted more and more. And by this point, yeah, it feels like everyone, this is, at least the interesting filmmakers, this is what they want to use and tell their stories with. I even think of Medium Cool comes out this year, which is Haskell Wexler running around Chicago shooting this like quasi documentary with like a fictional story in the middle of it during the Democratic National Convention in '68. So it feels like all these filmmakers are out running around in the real world making these movies at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and I would add to that, you have documentaries that are no longer, no longer really trying to do anything overtly. So Don't Look Back, where it's just footage. And then also Salesman. Is that what it's called? Salesman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So documentaries that have no script that they're really going on, are just showing you footage edited together.
And that stuff in this film, I think, really takes it to another level, or it's sort of like, you can't separate it, because I just feel like Matsumoto wouldn't be filming this Oedipus retelling that he's making with this really sort of melodramatic storytelling. The sort of fictional elements in this, have some really kind of, I don't know how to describe them, like over-the-top scenes. There's this great tragedy and people murdering each other and stuff like that. You've got these really painstakingly filmed sex scenes and stuff. And that stuff, the fact that it's undercut by the documentary type stuff, the like interviews with the actors, and then stuff like the drug party sequences and the stuff out on the street. It's all kind of a part of the same work, where I think those things work because they're contrasted with each other. And especially, there's that part where someone's reading like some kind of passage about masks, and the main character, Eddie, is at this gallery looking at these paintings of masks or faces. And this whole film becomes about not just the masks in terms of like gender expression and stuff, but the masks in terms of film, in terms of how this stuff is represented on film or in media. And so, yeah, you've got this story, this Oedipus story being told, and then you've got the film of the story being made. And I don't know. It all comes together for me to make it a very interesting film.
I agree. Yeah, that's nicely said. Yeah, I appreciated its its nonlinear editing, slicing together both that realistic stuff and this kind of like movie being shot within a movie and not knowing what is memory, what is the movie, what is the character, what is the character's character, you could say. Like there was a lot of kind of overlapping kind of meta expressions here that I thought was like really fun and innovative. And even though it felt confusing, I wasn't upset. I was like along for the ride in a way that it's hard to do sometimes, because there are other films that attempt to do this sort of thing but can leave you just kind of feeling like, what the hell's going on? Kind of a random film that it made me think of is a movie called Madeline's Madeline, which I think is an early Zendaya thing.
No, it's not. You sent me this before. It's a different actress.
It's a different actress
that does resemble her, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it reminds me of Madeline's Madeline to some degree, especially in the beginning of that movie, where you don't know what's memory and you don't know what's real, and it all kind of slices together in a really abstract way.
There's so many. It's a tough film to sort of dive into because it feels like these storylines, right? The non-linear thing makes it strange to know where to start.
And do you know? I mean, I don't really know anything about the mythology here. How do you say that?
Oedipus?
Oedipus Rex. Like what is that mythology?
I guess it's a play, but it's a Greek myth about a man that is sort of separated from his parents, and when he grows up, kind of returns to the place where he lives. I don't know. It's weird to describe because it's like the thing is, he doesn't recognize his parents when he does meet them later in life. So he meets someone on the road who he ends up killing, who turns out to be his father, and he basically arrives in this city, state, wherever, and becomes their leader in like a time of crisis, and marries the queen, who turns out to be his mother, and at the end, when he finds out that the queen is actually his mother and that he's killed his father, I think she commits suicide. I don't think he kills her. I think she commits suicide, but he gouges out his eyes with needles. I think that's the gist of the Oedipus story. It was taken by Freud as an analogy to explain child psychology and these behaviors that he was noticing, where boys were very, very affectionate with the mother and would be kind of antagonistic with the father, and explained it as like young boy children like have a jealousy towards the father because of the father's relationship to the mother. The boy wants to be close to the mother because she's the nurturer or whatever. So there's this like subconscious desire to kill the father and love the mother or marry the mother or something. That's the Oedipus complex, which has been rendered in a bunch of films and various fiction, but probably not very often in a trans way, in a sort of gender swapped way, where we see the opposite happen here. Eddie ends up killing her mother at a young age, and later in life connecting with, unbeknownst to her father. And then when they realize this is what happens at the end of the film, he commits suicide and she gouges her eyes out. And you also have the kind of the doubling thing with the madam of the club that she works at too, that the madam is another mother figure in her life who she kind of takes the role of, and has this relationship with who you might otherwise think as a father figure, but this guy who is like bankrolling the club or whatever he's doing in this relationship that he has with the madam. Yeah, I don't know. How's that hit you?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Yeah, it's always fun to use mythologies in different ways, and sometimes it can be done. I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but like if you don't update it, for like in a modern context, Yeah, I know. For me, it is hard to sometimes watch a mythology set in the time or in an earlier time. It's tough. But when you can pull it off by adapting it to a modern context, it can be very exciting. Like you just said, the way you described that and some of the ways that happens, it's fascinating. In a different kind of way, Black Orpheus was fun just to see a very fantastical setting for the myth of Orpheus and in the carnival of Brazil.
Mm.
I know that film has some problems, but that was another fun way to adapt a myth.
Yeah.
Is there problems? Is there problems that you see? Do you think with it now? I wouldn't critique the film harshly by any means, given that it's 1969 and doing a lot of new things here. But is there any critique from the vantage point we now have to give to the fact that this is like a certain type of identity that has to endure this trauma? Like why is this character going through this process? And what would you say about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think the little bit of quotes and things that I've read from Matsumoto, he does seem to be really interested in psychology and thinking about how we kind of repress ourselves and carry this like stress that manifests in certain ways because we want to conform to society or present some sort of image for people. So it comes across to me that he is really interested in telling a story like this because he is trying to psychologize what's going on with like transgender people, with these gay boys as they're called in Japan at this time. These people that to his eye, and you kind of get this through his interviews, are gay men who want to present and act and live as women, basically. He seems to be wanting to think about what's happening with that, and I think he is reaching for this Freudian Oedipus complex to kind of explain that, or at least give a thought to what could be going on there, which is a little problematic. And yeah, as far as I can tell, he himself is not like a transgender person, so he is speaking to an experience that is not his. There are some problems there, and I think the thing is, though, this is like a film that is already kind of a high barrier to entry with how experimental it is, so it's not really something that you're going to worry about presenting a bad representational image in a mainstream way, the same way that like transgender critics talk about Psycho as doing that and really presenting this very negative image of trans people. So I don't think most trans people would look at this and say like, yeah, this is the experience, or this explains what it means or what's going on with people when they are trans. What I've read and the book Corpses, Fools, and Monsters, which is a history of transness in film, is really good talking about this film, because this is an early example of like actors who are ostensibly trans getting to not only embody interesting roles, but also getting to present themselves in these documentary interview segments, and allowing them to speak for themselves is really, really powerful in the context of this film. That, yeah, Matsumoto might be presenting this idea of what he thinks it means to be trans, but you're also hearing it from these actors, these trans people, what it means to them, and you get to hear Peter, who is the name that the actor that plays Eddie goes by. You get to hear Peter say, yeah, I'm personality-wise, I do relate to this character, not so much the incest thing. That's a great line that she gives. But yeah, it's really, really crucial. And it's what I come back to, what I really appreciate and respond to in this film is those documentary elements, which is kind of what people, I think, respond to in the Warhol stuff too. He almost, I think, even more so than Matsumoto, he had sort of a negative image of the trans women, the Warhol girls, that he put on film, but they got to, author those films in their own ways, and people really, really appreciate getting to see them on film now, So there's always a sort of negotiation here of who gets to, be represented, who's editing or making these films. It's not like the ideal that you would want, I guess, from trans representation, but there's a lot of positive and a lot that people do really emotionally respond to, that we have this film from so long ago and we're able to watch it today. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds right. I mean, if I'm thinking of the acting was quite good. I thought it was wonderfully done. But this is, if you're going to attempt to shoot some of the film in a dramatic way, in a way that's being acted, that will be tough because the number of actors to choose from, your pool to choose from is going to be obviously very limited because there's much less quote unquote gay boys than there are, many other groups of people. So you're looking for the best actor potentially out of that group, which is a small size. And so they found one. And so I think it's helpful that they don't just shoot an ordinary film, but that they do multiple things. They shoot a film, they shoot scenes of the film itself being shot in a way. And then, of course, the little moments of the actor talking about their life, which humanizes that person at the same time as not just letting them act, but be themselves. It's making me think of Paris is Burning, which was a documentary, and I can't imagine that movie ever being dramatized in any way. It had to be a documentary, it feels like to me, to just show what the dancing, and I forget what they called it,
voguing?
Yeah, they just had to show it. It would have been such a challenge to have had that, looked like a film in any way.
Yeah.
It humanizes a group of people who weren't humanized, or often dehumanized. And I think actually showing who they really are absolutely humanizes them. Yeah.
Yeah, letting them basically play themselves is super crucial. Yeah. The only film I can think of that does an okay job at that sort of thing is what's it called? Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything.
Mm.
Yeah, Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which is this 90s comedy where Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo play three drag queens. They're all straight actors, or they're not out actors if they are queer, but they're all straight actors playing gay, and it's not a perfect film, but they do seem to put a lot of effort into the roles. So it's admirable. It ends up being a pretty good film, but it's kind of its own thing. I don't think it can touch Paris is Burning or something like this film, where it's really a big difference when these people who kind of actually live these lives can play these roles themselves.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say, and I appreciate that, and I can see that being the case for sure, and I would agree. It does feel though that the idea to adapt a myth and use a character who's trans or queer, it is it feels like the one part of the film that is sort of just a mashup for the sake of doing something new, maybe, and then as time goes on, why I would appreciate this film is for so many other aspects, and the mashup itself just feels like that's a holding. That's like it's just it's what holds the film together, but it's not necessarily. It's not perfect in some way, I guess. There's so many other elements of the film that are operating to our eyes today in a way that's like groundbreaking and amazing, and I really feel like his use of that documentary stuff, and there's times where it's like almost transcendent when he's like kind of it's like a strobe light effect on the scene where it's like flashing between different images, and then this kind of people making love, and it's many times transcendent. And I easily can see this film when it was originally came out so confusing to audiences and so hard to digest. Like it makes sense that it wouldn't have been recognized until now. It still feels to me like that mashup is just it's the only part that feels dated, I guess. Yeah.
No, I get that. Yeah, and I always wonder, how that reads to other people, the Oedipus stuff. You do feel like he's reaching for something for the sake of trying to be very.
He's like biting off more than he can chew.
A little bit, yeah. He's trying to go all out and kind of make it this film that can kind of encapsulate everything, this psychology and the real life and what's going on internally and stuff. And he can't, it does feel like he can't quite get there. And there are parts of that story, the flashbacks, that resonate with me, I think are very effective. Like when the young Eddie as a boy is saying, "Forget about Dad, you have me now," and the mother just laughs in his face. Like that feels very affecting to me. And the later scene where he puts on the makeup and he's kissing himself in the mirror, like that's interesting. And I almost wonder if that stuff comes from stories or interviews that Matsumoto did with gay boys, because that stuff feels like that comes from some kind of real experience. And I find that in parts, in some of those parts, it's rendered very well. But overall, it's reaching for something that feels kind of speculative and over the top. So I don't know. I've like everyone that I've gotten to watch this film with so far responds so much to that documentary type stuff. I think everyone's able to excuse this fiction, the Oedipus story in it, and then just be able to chalk it up to like, for the time there aren't other films that explore this stuff, so he's given it a try. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, 100%. I mean, and this kind of this critique I have too, it has also just to do with the sense that like, if that is its story, then it's operating on levels that are much higher than it's the story itself. The story is fairly simple. It's not his story, right? It's just an adaptation. So it's totally fine. You can forgive it as much as you can forgive them you using terms like gay boy and stuff like that. These are we've moved on and we've progressed, and we can watch this now from a modern perspective. Again, we're talking about drugs. We're smoking weed here, like with Easy Rider, and we're also showing that it's being censored and being illegalized in some way. I was interested in that part when they show a clip of a guy talking about marijuana being outlawed or like cracked down on. Was that do you think that was real footage? I mean, if he included it, to some degree it was happening.
I do believe that was happening. That looked like something created for the film.
Mm-hmm. It did look like it was created for the film, but it must have been happening. Otherwise, what a incredible prophet he would have been.
No, I think it was, and it isn't. Isn't marijuana still legal in Japan?
I assume it is. Yeah, decriminalized probably, but yeah.
Yeah. It's just like Easy Rider. You're trying to kind of get an idea of why why are people gravitating to this? Why is it so attractive to young people? And it's like the world around them, the society is so stifling, so constrictive that they want to let loose. They want to just have a weird experience where it feels okay to do anything, to take your clothes off and dance around with people, listen to, rock and roll music and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
did you ever hear of I can't remember what it was called, like the dancing fever of like Sweden or something like this, or like of some town in the Middle Ages?
That sounds familiar. I'm not sure if I have.
Yeah, it was a phenomenon that happened where people just started dancing and they couldn't stop. They danced until they died. And a lot of speculation around that is that things were so Puritan and so there was so many rules and people could express themselves in so few ways that there was a breakout of dancing, of just breaking out of that old thing, and it just caused them to, because it was such an extreme level of Puritanism. When they finally got to dance, they danced too much. Mm-hmm. And so I do see both Easy Rider and this film, and even Kubrick, later, and other people, they're already showing both ends of the spectrum, where society itself is rigid, so people have the desire to break out of it and dance and sing and be free, but also that freedom becoming too loose can lead to its own problems as well. I always reference this, but Hieronymus Bosch's 3-panel Garden of Earthly Delights, where the first panel is paradise, but paradise drawn out to infinity ends up very hellish. And these directors are already making things that are sort of dipping into that chaos.
Yeah. And this film certainly isn't, I don't feel it's prescriptive about the culture and saying that it's wrong, but they are, through these interviews, giving you an image of some of these people in this scene are kind of in danger. They are going in too deep and acting in ways that are dangerous to themselves for one reason or another. And when society kind of doesn't allow for an outlet, doesn't allow for a acceptable, healthy space to explore different behaviors and things, these I don't know, people have to act in dangerous ways to be able to go explore that stuff, and they might, some of these people might get arrested, might get in trouble with the law, or they might have trouble holding down jobs, have strained relationships with family and other people, where they then, because they are having so much stress in their life, they fall too far into this scene. So I think you're getting a sense of that through some of these interviews, and a sense of the world outside that's leading to kind of self-destructive behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's obviously we'd advocate for more liberalism and more freedom of expression and all that type of thing. And it is sad. It is sad that oftentimes people have to either hide or keep their desires secret. So going to shady bars and to get to them, go through shady alleys and things like that. That's no good. And on top of that, just how we process traumas that have affected the way we might express ourselves, just in the way we live with it and cope with it and all that stuff. So, if we're going to bars to drink and do drugs as a way of processing, well, that's only going to be helpful for a certain amount of time. Eventually, we would need things like community and therapy or other modes of healing.
Yeah, I like how this film shows how interconnected different types of people are through this search for a kind of counterculture. That you have the druggies, you have queer people, you even have your experimental filmmakers, but none of them have learned, how to cope with whatever stresses that they're coping with in a healthy way, or talk through and connect to each other through these things. Like the filmmaker, he's just gonna make his film. It's expressing something, but no one really knows. And I like the line where someone says, "It makes me feel high," and the other girl says, I prefer the real thing, the drugs,
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's all they know as a therapy, as a connection, an outlet. Even though there's a community here, it's not one that has learned anything beyond, like, let's get high and hang out, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And this film's going to give you a slice of life documentary kind of feel in terms of what life was like then for them, and that's why it was like, it was such a delight to watch for that reason, seeing these people's lives. And, just to reference it again, say what you will about Godard, in something like Breathless or his other films, like, he is undoubtedly setting a tone and a way of making a film for so many people. Like, it's laughable how often he could be mentioned here in the late 60s and probably early 70s and on. But I had to look this up. Kubrick was indeed affected by this film, and it definitely inspired Clockwork Orange for both how it was edited and what it shows and how it shows it. So I love that. There's so many things going on in the 60s here. So many different connections and artists inspiring each other.
Yeah, the actress Peter eventually has a role in Ron. I haven't seen Ron yet.
Oh wow!
But that's interesting. I wonder if Kurosawa got around to watching this at any point.
I imagine so. That would make sense. I mean, if Kubrick on the other side of the earth saw it, a fellow Japanese great probably did. I'm also curious makes me curious at least about, it's not coming too long after this, maybe 71, 72, throw away your books, rally in the streets.
Yeah, I think I at least was seeing a number of actors that are shared between this film and that film. So I think they were kind of in the same scene, probably knew of each other and each other's work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this director, though, I mean, the fact that he makes a film like this, I mean, I can't overstate it enough. That's right. That it's literally like an unbelievable piece of work. It's close to a 5-star for me. If not, I have to think on it more, but it's just such a remarkable film. And you could tell that he's watched a ton of film. Like, you could just tell what he's doing. You could just see it. And having watched his other film that he does after this, Demons, he's not afraid to do anything. Because Demons was absolutely unhinged in its violence and what it decides to show. And so this is a fearless director that I'm just happy to see his films get preserved and then grow in popularity as time goes on now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Another connection, I think, on his first short, he works with the composer Takemitsu to do the music. And I believe that was the first time Takemitsu had worked on a film, but he goes on to do so many great, influential, kind of innovative film scores, like the Harakiri one, Woman in the Dunes, and Pale Flower. We've also seen those, but a lot of really incredible work. So, Matsumoto was connected with that guy. I think he was a big deal. He was a interesting guy working kind of over in the experimental realm in film.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, the fact that this film is mostly experimental all the way through. I mean, it's essentially a feature-length experimental film, and that is always astonishing to pull that off. It's one thing to make an experimental short. Shorts are designed in a way, just by their sheer lack of time, right? Like the limiting of time, you can do whatever you want. But with a feature, come on. I mean, pulling that off, what a feat.
Yeah. There are so many interesting, different things happening in this film. The only part in this film is like 3 times he does the like sped up with like the goofy music thing, kind of like it's a silent comedy or something.
Mm-hmm. Three Stooges or something, yeah.
Yeah, three times is a little much because the when he does that, those scenes go on for like a couple minutes each time, But overwhelmingly through the rest of the film, he's doing different, interesting things each time. There's when they're filming the television and having that weird like thing with the video signal where the image is wavy, like he's experimenting with like TV and he'll later on I think he gets into digital video and does experimental stuff with digital video, but he's really interested in image manipulation in ways that just kind of you marvel at when you watch this film.
Yeah, he does. I loved that manipulation was fantastic. Yeah, and that strobe and I will say the sped up parts. I watched with my wife, and we were sort of laughing at those parts because they are funny. Like they had comedy in this too. Yeah. But by the third one, she referenced Zazie, Das La Metro, and I thought, yeah, that did remind me a lot of Zazie, both in the fact that there was these sped up scenes, and also in the fact that it was overdone, because that's what you end up feeling at the end of Zazie. It's just like, okay, really dragging this down, or you're really making your point known. Like this is a cartoonified fun. The fun is over. It's like telling the joke a few times too many.
Yeah. Zazie almost feels like an early version of like Japanese TV, those super over the top game shows and stuff. Like it's so much constantly all the time. There's like an impulse to go too far with it, and it stops being as fun at a certain point. And to wrap back around to the gender stuff, this part with the masks, this motif that's sprinkled throughout the film about masks, I think is a really smart way to think about gender and to kind of talk about gender in this film, because it is something that we learn and we kind of create for ourselves, whether you're a man, a woman, or someone born assigned those genders at birth, but then you move in a different direction. We're always making decisions about how we express, how we perform that gender, and that's a mask. That's often something that we are doing because it's expected of us, because we want to come across a different way than we necessarily feel inside. And yeah, I'm someone who is gender questioning. Just the label of man never feels quite right. And I don't really go beyond that. I just I feel like myself. I don't identify so much with the masculinity. And there's a really interesting part that in this, it shows it a couple times with the Che Guevara, the experimental director guy. His beard comes off. He wears a fake beard to look like Che Guevara, and everyone calls him Guevara. But I love that little image that we get a couple times, because it shows not just with the gay boys is there this put on this very conscious gender expression, this Guevara character is doing it too, trying to come across as more masculine, and everyone does it. It's a part of everyone's life, how they consciously put on gender, put on this mask. I think that's a really interesting thematic thing that does still resonate all these years later. The Oedipus stuff feels a little weird and ham-fisted, but I love that he's talking about masks, that he's talking about how we perform for society and how that doesn't always reflect the person underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well said. That's well said. Yeah, I'm always fascinated by these discussions because I just don't tend to think about it ever. I'm not walking around thinking I'm a man doing this thing, or I'm doing this thing in a masculine way. Yeah. But I've had times where brief moments where I like go to use a restroom and I'm like, what? I'm just for a brief moment, like, which one? Oh yeah, man. Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess men. That's the one, or, moments in my life where I've questioned like, what does identity mean? What is the point of this kind of strange abstraction that we lay over all of society? It can become a very transparent mask, I suppose, for me. And I have zero obsession with it, but it is an absolute fascination to me how people love to express it in all sorts of ways.
Yeah. I find that it's a very fluid, malleable thing. Not just how you're expressing, but how you're thinking about yourself. And you might be in different groups of people and feel more masculine, more feminine, whatever, just because of who you are around and like what that environment feels like. So I think, I don't know if there's another thought there, but I love a film like this where you get to think about that stuff more,
Yeah. No, I mean, it was radical for its time. And, the fact that we can resonate with it today is, it's amazing.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or moments you wanted to touch?
Like you said, it's a massive film. Hard to talk linearly at all about a film that's so nonlinear and does so many things. So, but it's a incredible work of art.
Yeah. There's the other thing maybe we didn't touch on is the politics, the protesting and stuff going on in the background. I mean, we talked about the drug crackdown stuff, but there's that interesting character that Eddie comes across who's like got this head injury, and she dresses his wound, and then it cuts to him like in direct address to the camera talking about like violence and how we shouldn't judge violence by society's morals, but by like what it accomplishes or something, or what the history of violence is. It's interesting. I think Matsumoto had some history depicting this stuff in his like documentary work, but it's curious. It feels like that Godard stuff too. Like he wants to show that there's kind of a world, there's like a friction happening in society where people are driven to protest because things feel like they are going wrong in their world.
Yeah. And showing that in the background so that it does feel sort of Godardian. It's also reminds me of a film I just watched, the Memories of Underdevelopment. Yeah. Some parts of that film have the same sort of thing where it's a very subjective film, very POV of a character. And there's these moments where like on the radio, you'll hear, that there's protesting going on in Cuba that then kind of connect you to the rest of the world. And I think that's smart. I think I said this last time too, or some other time, where that is wise to do, to place in certain parts of the film that politics, the politics of the time. It would be very challenging to do it overtly, though it can be done. it's always so sly and kind of fun when a director pops it in there in the background or, to the side.
Yeah. There's something I wonder what you can take away from it, because the characters will briefly interact with these people, and Eddie is able to help that guy out in that moment, but there are other times where they walk by this protest asking for donations, and they're just sorry, can't do anything, and it kind of feels like, they're gay boys, they've got plenty of problems in their world, they're probably not super well off financially. Sometimes it can be hard to engage with that stuff when there is a lot of strife in your own life, and it can be hard for movements like that to kind of bring people in and meet them where they are at, and help, lend a helping hand to them. I almost feel like the film in a subtle way shows that we're not all the way there in terms of a coalition that could actually meaningfully cause change in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
These people have all been kind of separated into their own silos, maybe.
Yeah, I know. Also, I don't know the politics of Japan at the time, but it's the case that there's always problems, and it's a matter of how well the coalition is bringing people together to fight for those issues. Sadly, it seems to be the case that despite there being many different issues at all times, it really is only when one of the issues becomes urgent enough that everybody begins to act and come together to protest. I've often found that to be a very intriguing part of human psychology. It's well, why? There's plenty to be protesting about right now, but I suppose you have to pick one and pick the most pressing.
Yeah. It feels, especially right now in this country, it feels very fractured and unsuccessful. I don't know. I see a lot of people around me getting much more involved in mutual aid stuff because you do see tangible benefit to that kind of activity. And I think it makes sense. That's kind of the best we can try to do right now, is help the people immediately around us.
Right. And in terms of larger issues, social media does not help at all. Kind of you think something will just become an issue for a fleeting amount of time, and then it's we're on to the next thing. The pace of media is too quick for anything to take hold, it seems like. But we'll see.
It does feel that way, yeah.
Yeah. That was going back to Eddington now. But I was going to say, how about that little moment of when the father kills himself and he pulls down the curtain in the bathroom in the shower? I thought of Psycho for sure, because he had that knife in his hand, and he's in the shower. So many different. It really felt like a lot of times there were so many different little references to films.
Yes, and Harakiri. I do think of that director because he renders violence so viscerally and uncomfortably. This definitely feels like it's taking some inspiration from him.
Yeah, that's true. And one of those moments where the sped up fights, one of them starts with them having a shootout, a playful shootout with guns, which is of course a Western reference.
Yeah.
When I saw the Western reference, that's what made me think, oh my God, how many other references are being put in this that I'm not even aware of? Super fun.
Oh yeah. Probably even more, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Funeral Parade of Roses.
Funeral Parade of Roses. Crazy. I mean, how do you even talk about it? We did our best.
Yeah.
We did our best. Yeah. What else are you going to do? How else are you going to do it? Coming up, we have
produced in Taiwan. It's kind of connected to Taiwan and Hong Kong. So I don't even know if you necessarily call it a Chinese film, but yeah, Touch of Zen, which is in the Sight and Sound, and it's a mammoth 3-hour film. So we're gonna take it all in.
we will take it all in. But we also are going to be watching a movie coming out soon, Paul Thomas Anderson's newest film. So we might be releasing that soon. Or before, so we don't know yet. Coming up might be One Battle After Another, or it will be A Touch of Sin.
We shall see. Go to unauthorizedpod.com and you'll find our letterboxes, the film lists, and you can send questions and comments. I think that'll do it.
That'll do it.
Until next time.
Peace. Till next time.